Well, hello everybody and welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to make Anadama bread or molasses bread. This is a bread from New England in the United States and it's flavoured with molasses. I've never tasted it, but I've watched several videos and I've seen some recipes and it looks very interesting, so I thought I would give it a try. It's a yeasted dough, so it's going to take some time, as they tend to do, but it shouldn't be too difficult. So I'll go on to the ingredients. And for this I have 113 grams, which is 3/4 of a cup minus half a tablespoon of cornmeal. I have 42 grams, which is 3 tablespoons of softened butter. I have 85 grams, which is 1/4 of a cup of molasses, or black treacle would work fine. I have 28 grams of powdered milk, which is 1/4 of a cup. I have 8 grams, 1 1/4 teaspoons of salt. Then I have 240 grams, which is 1 2/3 cups, based on scooping packed flour into a 250 milliliter cup of plain flour, bread flour. And I have 113 grams, 3/4 of a cup plus 3 tablespoons of wholemeal plain flour. I have 7 grams, which is 2 1/4 teaspoons of instant yeast, which is 1 packet, and I also am going to use 250 grams, which is 1 cup plus 2 teaspoons of boiling water. And so the first thing we need to do is to make our dough, basically. So I'm going to put my corn flour and my salt into the mixer, and I'm just going to mix those around just a little bit, and then I'm going to add in my butter and my molasses, like that, and I'm going to pour in my water. Now I should say that if you're in a humid climate or it's the middle of summer and it's very hot, you may not need 250 milliliters, but so you can perhaps not add in all of it and hold back a tablespoon or so, but you can always add that in later if you need to. So I'll put mine in like that, and then I'm just going to run my Ankarsrum on a low speed until that's all combined and the butter has melted. So that has all melted together now, but it's still rather warm. So I'm going to leave it until it cools down to just lukewarm, which will be about 41 degrees Celsius, which is 105 to 106 Fahrenheit, I think. So I'll be back in 15 minutes or so when this has cooled down. So that has now cooled down, and I'll just move it to the side for a moment so that I can take my flour and put my yeast into it and the powdered milk and the plain wholemeal flour, and I'm simply just going to give that a bit of a mix just to start to get it combined. So I'm going to add that into our liquid now. And I'm going to start the mixer on a low speed, and I'm just going to add it in the first instance and mix it until it becomes combined into a shaggy dough. But I'll add it a bit at a time. And that is now mixed into a shaggy dough, so I'm simply going to leave that for 20 minutes, and that's going to allow some of the moisture to absorb into the dough, and then I'll come back in 20 minutes and we will knead it until we have a nice smooth but stiff and sticky dough. So it's now been 20 minutes, my dough has been resting before we knead it, but I just want to stress that you don't need to use a mixer like I'm using. If you have a tilt head mixer, it works perfectly fine. You can even do this by hand, of course, but it's a lot more work. So we'll go on to knead the dough now. I'm going to start it on a slow speed and then gradually increase the speed. And I'm going to mix this and I'm going to knead this until it is a smooth and stiff dough, still slightly tacky, and it's going to take a reasonable amount of time, but you need to check your own dough because of the humidity and such like. So I've kneaded that now, and that looks quite good, I have to say, and it feels slightly sticky, but it's nice and firm. So I'm going to leave that to proof. So as you can see, that's a nice firm dough. I'll just pick that up. And I'm going to just form it into a ball and put it back in the bowl. Of course, this mixer can do very great volumes of dough, so this is just a small volume. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my lid on that, and I'm going to leave that to proof for about an hour. And it's reasonably warm in here, but about an hour should be enough. And then I'll come back and we'll shape it and put it into a greased 2-pound loaf tin. Well, I let the dough proof for 1 hour, so now I'm ready to shape it. So I'll take it out of the bowl, and you could flour your work surface, but I think although it's sticky, it will still be good enough without flouring. And I'm just going to gently deflate it. So I've pressed the air out. I haven't been too vigorous with it, and that's now a rectangle, and this is about 8 inches here. So I'm going to roll the dough up like that, and I'm just going to pinch the seams and on the ends as well, like that, and I'm going to put that into my greased loaf pan. And then I'm going to cover that with some lightly greased plastic wrap, and I'm going to leave it to proof until it just comes up by about an inch over the surface, over the top of the pan. And while that's happening, I'm going to preheat my oven in the last 20 minutes or so to 180 degrees Celsius, 160 Celsius with a fan, 350 Fahrenheit, and then it would be ready to bake. And I'll come back and show you just before I put it into the oven. So I let my dough proof in the loaf tin for another hour, and I have my oven preheated. So this is what the loaf looks like at the moment before it's baked. So it's come up over an inch above the top, and I'm going to put that into the oven, and I'm going to bake it for between 35 and 40 minutes. I will test it at 35 minutes, and if the internal temperature is about 88 Celsius, 190 Fahrenheit, that will tell me that it's done basically. And I'll take it out of the oven and then take it out of the tin and allow it to cool down, and then I'll come back and show you the results. I baked my bread for 35 minutes and tested the temperature, and it had reached about 90 degrees Celsius, so that's over 190 Fahrenheit. So I took it out of the oven and put it onto a wire rack and left it to cool, and it's slightly warm, but it's basically cooled down now. So I've sliced it, and this is what it looks like. And because of the cornmeal and the wholemeal flour, it's going to be quite a dense loaf, but it does look to have a very nice crumb, and it's nice and soft as well. So I've buttered just a piece here, which I'll have a taste of. It has a lovely texture, and I can get just the savoury flavour from the molasses, really. Not a sweet flavour, and molasses tends to be sweet. It's not sweet, and I think the cornmeal probably gives it a nice texture as well. So this is actually quite a nice bread. I can envisage having this with some cheese, basically. I don't know how it's eaten in New England, but that's how I might do it. So that's going to be it for this recipe. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to a link for the recipe, and I'll put a link in the video below, and I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.